ready to build resiliency, create a healthy lifestyle, and overcome adversity with a warrior mindset. This is Define the Fight with Mariah Prussia.
Hey, welcome everybody to Define the Fight. You know, it is April 8th, the day that a lot of people have been waiting for, but then also a day that a lot of people have been fearing. I'm sitting in the studio. I've got an amazing guest on today, but as I can see, numerous TV channels, there's so much anxiety and fear-stricken in how people are moving, their facial expressions. How about we do this? Let's take a deep breath. And today we're going to meet with Ryan Evans, certified master astrologer through Forest Center for Evolutionary Astrology. He also does readings, and you know what? We have a mutual friend that connected us, which is Wes Hamilton, an amazing man that I have known for numerous years. So Ryan, you know what? I can just about imagine what your energy is going to be like today. So welcome to Define the Fight.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Hey, you know, I was listening to your podcast, and I was like, all right, this man's going to have some energy. Plus, you know, it's just, you've got some quirkiness in you. It's all good. And you know what? We need to lighten up the energy for today and talk about really what's going on here and break down, you know, defining the significance of, you know, the solar eclipse. But before we do that, let's talk about your background, Ryan, and what got you into astrology.
Sure. I was a landscaper and gardener in Minneapolis, and my mother, for my 19th birthday, got me a reading with an astrologer, and you know, it all changed after that. Oh my gosh, how can this person who doesn't even know me plug some information into a computer and have all of the answers to me? Whoa. So I began my study, and now, 30 years later, I'm a certified master level astrologer and astrology teacher for one of the best astrology schools in the world. I have a lot of fun doing it, and best of all, I can be of helpful assistance to people who are wondering, oh my God, what's going on in the world? And then we can say, oh, well, check this out. Here's some answers. Not the answer, but some answers. So
I think that's the key. When you look at the different things on social media, there's so many different videos, there's so many different theories, but let's truly break it down. So you look at astronomy, you look at astrology, what is the differential? So break down what an astrologist actually does.
Sure. Well, maybe it was a really defining point in human evolution. I don't know, go back 10 or 20 or 100 or 500, depending on your belief system, 1,000 years ago. And we looked out into the night sky and we tried to figure out what the heck it all meant. What was going on? Oh, please, Lord, why do I have to do these dishes? Or whatever it is. Give me a sign. Show me what's up. And it was then where we started making the connection between this thing in the night sky, we eventually called the moon, and the cycles of the female. Whoa, there's some resonance there. We actually put two and two together. We projected meaning onto this moon and said, wow, this thing in the night sky carries some of these qualities of the woman. And the woman carries these qualities of the moon. Whoa, maybe there's some connection. Moon, cycles, rhythm. Woman has cycles and rhythm. I mean, we men sitting around the campfire beating our chest 10,000 years ago. I mean, we didn't have any kind of cycles that were that obvious. But whoa, the cycles between the moon and the woman, that's sacred. And welcome to the birth of the goddess religions and the birth of astrology. And so from that time to about, now we humans have just had a penchant for projecting meaning onto things. So like, what else is out there? Oh, this one goes really close to the sun. Oh, they must be talking to the sun. Ooh, that one's really beautiful and blue and alluring. Oh, that must be the goddess of love. Well, there's Mercury and Venus and our projections upon that. And real quickly, due to quantum physics, where the observer has an effect on that which is observed. That's kind of how astrology works. We call something, there's a planet out there, a god that's red and hot and fiery like blood and war. There's Mars. We're going to project meaning onto it. And due to quantum physics, it's reflected back to us. So that's
you had mentioned
quick astrology primer.
And you had mentioned cycles. I did a tie cutting ceremony on the reservation. And it's interesting that you mentioned cycles because they were talking about the fact for women who are writing down names or the energies that they wanted to release from their past, where it's cutting and breaking the chain of the trauma so that you can heal. If an individual was on her cycle, they were not allowed to take the paper with the tobacco and so on and so forth and drop it into the fire. And they actually had to go last because during their cycle, the energy is significantly higher than it is when it is not. So making that correlation, I never really put two and two together in regards to the female and the moon, so on and so forth. But, now looking at where we're shifting into what's happening today, there is a lot of energy, and I don't think a lot of individuals understand the importance and the significance of the energy that we have and how it impacts the earth, how it impacts different things, and clearly you are an expert in this area, whereas, I'm just an individual, a pupil that's learning as we go. What are some things that individuals can look at, or when you're talking about the eclipse, what does that actually mean?
Sure. So again, we humans project meaning onto nature, and it's thusly reflected back to us. And we make a little poem out of it. And so we look at the seasons of the earth and the cycles and rhythms of the earth, and we anthropomorphize it. We make it into a poem as well. And so when we look at the signs, the astrological signs, we're actually looking at the seasons. And when we look at the seasons, what we're actually looking at is what is our historical engagement with each season. And at Capricorn season, middle of winter, we have to, be strong and resolute and, chop the wood and carry water and do what we have to do to survive. There's not a whole lot of emotional reactivity that goes on because we got to, show up and do the work. Capricorn. And so now here we are in Aries season. If you imagine a little seedling bursting through the soil surface, this little seedling has contained within it all of the energy, all of the information to establish and maintain and perpetuate every subsequent forest. But it's a little seedling. And this energy contained, this whole forest full of energy contained in this seedling has to contend with the wind that wants to knock it over and the rain that wants to beat it down and the hungry rabbits that want to make it into a delicious snack. So the season of Aries, synonymous with ourselves being this little seedling, we have within us the archetype of Aries season, and everybody has Aries somewhere in their chart. We all have within us this knowledge of all of our potential. We have this knowledge of all of our passion and all of our drive and everything that we wish to become. And amidst that, we have all of the obstructions and blockages and challenges from this three-dimensional world. Again, the wind in all of its metaphor will try to knock us over. The rain will try to pound us down, and the rabbits will try to eat us. So the archetype of Aries season, where this eclipse is happening, is all about the development of personal power. I love that this show is about developing the warrior spirit. That's the entire definition of the Aries archetype. How can we, as perhaps little tiny seedlings just popping through the soil surface, How can we maintain our strength amidst the rain that wants to beat us down? How can we maintain our flexibility amidst the wind that wants to knock us over? And how can we set up adequate avenues of defense against the, fluffy little bunnies who actually want to devour us? So it's not like we want to take thorns and, shoot them out preemptively at anything that moves. But it can be wise to have contained in our arsenal a thorn that if the rabbit is going to come and take a bite out of us, we can say, no, thank you. Here's a thorn, or here's a poison leaf. If you take a bite, there's going to be consequences.
Right.
Aries energy, the warrior energy in its beautiful place, is not about attack.
So Ryan, we're going to dive into that whole warrior energy. What should individuals expect during this time of the eclipse and then moving forward? Because it's not just a one day. It's okay, this is a shift that's coming.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of like a eclipses or anything major astrologically, like your birth. It sets a tone for the whole duration of that event. Eclipses actually resonate for about 19 years. So yeah, there's some major residual adventures that can occur from the choices, from the energy that we hold today and right now. So again, this eclipse is in the sign of Aries, the sun and moon, Chiron, the north node of the moon, which is the eclipse point, one of two eclipse points that shows the straight line between the earth and the moon and the sun. They're all in Aries. And again, the suggestion of the season of Aries is that, hey, you're this little baby seedling. And so the little baby seedling has to embody the energy of an absolutely gargantuan, impenetrable warrior. And so all of us, or many of us, may be feeling some residual disempowerment over the last several years. No, you have to do this. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do this, and you have to do this. Okay, all right. And then we end up, everything turns out to be okay. But in the meantime, many of us may be feeling that there has been a disempowerment, or us having given our power away. And so Aries energy, this eclipse, is all about taking our power back. And then it doesn't mean that we have to take our power back and destroy those things that oppressed us. No, again, we go back to the visual of the little baby seedling. We have a right to exist. We have a right to move towards the sun, move towards our intention, and be happy. So healthy Aries energy, healthy warrior energy, it isn't a Rambo kind of, I've got my guns on either side here ready to, blow the head off of anything that tries to oppress me. No, it's like, no, I have the power to strengthen my stem. I have the power to hold my leaves up to the sun. I have the power to pick myself up. These are all metaphors now. I have the power to pick myself up from the mud if I get knocked over. I have the power to remain flexible amidst the adversity of life. I have the ability to not let the threat of the rabbit eating me dissuade me from my path. So what does it all come down to? In the simplest terms, it harkens to Shakespeare's Hamlet. To be or not to be, that's the question. And so if we choose to be, then we've got a whole set of thick choices. We've got to follow our energy. We have to go up against adversity. We have to grow towards the sun. We have to defend ourselves from the rabbits. There's a whole host of things we must do. And if we choose to not be, Is that going to be any easier? No, then we're submissive, then we're being used, then we're just a pawn, then we're a victim, quote unquote, and then we feel like, oh, I'm this helpless little seedling that's just being thrown around by the wind. And that's a choice that we can make. Oh yeah, I'm just going to be passive, and maybe I'll just expect the world to serve me. No, that's not going to get us anywhere these days. So this time right now, like right tick 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 now, is a time for each of us individually to set an intention of like, wait a second, this is a realm of my life where I need to face my fears. This is a realm in my life where I need to adopt a warrior's energy, no matter how small I feel, or especially if I'm feeling small, or especially if I'm feeling insignificant. That shows an even higher need to be in one's power and to fight the good fight.
I love everything that you said with the power and the warrior, and utilizing it in a fashion of elevating yourself in multiple facets, right? So you look at physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and with choices, it all requires moving forward, taking that step, leading into faith versus fear. And we have been fear-stricken. Like, look at all the different things, again, circling back to what is being played. And then individuals also have to choose how they're fueling themselves. And if you're fueling yourself from a source that isn't actually fueling you, and it's evaporating, and all of a sudden you're becoming, like, again, deflated, you have to choose a different air supply. You have to step into it. I shouldn't say you have to, but if you want something more, then you need to make a different choice. And with current times, we've had our power taken in many facets. However you want to look at it, it doesn't matter if you look politically, it doesn't matter if you look at religion, it doesn't matter if you look at race, so on and so forth. We're in a pivotal time of divide and conquer. So right now, the thing that we need to focus on is, you can't necessarily conquer yourself, but you get where I'm going with that is, what can you control? What are your controllables? It is the way that you work on yourself, and that's really, really key. So when you're talking about the Aries energy, this is a time for individuals to, you know what, quit sitting on a flat tire. Go to the gas station, get to the air compressor, and fill it up.
That's perfect. In fact, probably the very best analogy I can think of is that on some level, each of us has a proverbial cavity, and it hurts. And varying degrees. Some people are in excruciating pain, and some people just get annoyed when they eat a little sugar. But we have this proverbial cavity. Maybe it's we want to lose weight, or we want to make more money, or something hurts a little bit in our life. Maybe, again, could be huge, could be very small. But in order for that cavity to be fixed, we have to call the dentist. And not only do we have to call the dentist, we have to show up for the appointment. And not just show up, but we have to get in the chair. And then we have to open our mouth and allow ourselves to be drilled. And then our face is going to be numb, and it's going to hurt for a little while. So it's not like there's some quick fix. But we show up and we get our mouth drilled, and we get the cavity fixed. And then after a while, we're going to be able to eat. And so it's like that with some facet of our lives for every single one of us. Where is the cavity? How do we show up to fix it? And how awesome are we going to feel when we do show up?
Well, what I can tell you is we're all going to feel awesome, because everybody's going to start showing up for themselves first, so that they can show up for others. We were talking briefly about so many different things that have been coming across the news, and one of those are the 3 sounding rockets, that are going to be being shot towards the eclipse. Ryan, what are some of the different insights that you have on what are the measurables? What do you foresee them measuring as they shoot those off during the eclipse?
Sure. When there is an eclipse, well, first let's contextualize this. The Earth and Sun and Moon have this kind of love triangle relationship, if you will. that there's this normal energetic flow between the gravitational, electromagnetic, and strong and weak nuclear forces connection between the Earth and the moon and the sun. And it's normal, the moon, we have new moons and full moons, but eclipses are rare. Having the moon or the sun, or having the moon or the Earth get in the way of that normal electromagnetic and gravitational connection. There's an interruption during an eclipse. And so, like today, with the moon getting in the way of the normal electromagnetic and gravitational hold that the sun has on us, the astrological observation is, whoa, there's this temporary interruption in the normal electromagnetic and gravitational flow between the Earth, sun, and moon. That means energies can leave this realm and energies can come into this realm. So as an evolutionary astrologer, considering the eternality of soul and consciousness, if you will, we say that during eclipses, souls and other energies leave this realm, and souls and other energies come into this realm and hang out and wait for a good host family to be born into. So as astrologers, we look at the nodes of the moon as where we've been in past lives, south node of the moon, and what things we are to emulate or integrate into our life now so that we can grow and evolve. There's the north node of the moon, astrologically. That's a 5-day lecture boiled down into a minute. That being said, when we look at this astrologically as an interruption, we're looking at like a computer needing to reboot, shut off for an upgrade. That's huge astrologically. And science is now trying to say, well, what actually is going on in this interruption, between the normal hold that the sun has? I know, let's shoot some rockets up into the ionosphere and try to measure what happens, try to observe what happens. So I'd like to say that it's a relatively benign science, trying to just figure out what exactly is going on at this time of a bit of interruption. I'd be very surprised to hear if they're like, oh yeah, we had 432,000 past life souls come into the Earth realm at this eclipse. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but it will be interesting to see what their findings are.
Yeah, and they measured too, I believe it was in October of 2023, they also did another, I'm not sure in regards to the stats of what the actual information that they collected or received from that, but the technology that we currently have, and trying to learn more, I get it, but then sometimes too, it's like, sometimes you don't want to learn. I'm just going to throw that out there. But yeah, it's when you're talking about the energy and things leaving and resetting, this is the perfect time. We all need a reset. It feels like we've all been flipped upside down on top of our head. And now we're just basically crawling. Right now we're on all fours and we're trying to get to that upright position. So when we look at the eclipse, which is happening today, what are the different time frames? So I know for us, what are we looking at for that breakdown for Central Standard Time?
Yeah, here in beautiful Viroqua, Wisconsin, about 35 miles southeast of La Crosse, our exact time of the eclipse is 1:19 and 23 seconds p.m. here in Central Daylight Time. And so what we want to say is at this moment, we want to have an intention that basically says, I'm taking my power back. I'm taking my life back. I have the ability to choose my life according to what is best for me and what I want my life to become. I mean, we want to say this every day, but at eclipse times, it's like a very powerful, almost shamanic moment where we can just literally say, all right, I've had enough. I'm offering those old fears to the universe, And universe, I'm open to me taking my own power back, meaning I don't need anything necessarily from the universe other than you to take from me the rest of my fear because I'm done with it. And so we take our power back, we make our appropriate choices. Ryan says, "Yeah, I'll do an interview. That sounds great." Ryan says, should I just make breakfast or do my yoga first? I did my yoga first this morning. Yes, it feels very empowering that I was able to, do my yoga this
Do your
morning. And
thing.
yeah, and that little feeling of I did it, I can do it. That's 100% of what we want astrologically for each individual during this eclipse is a reclaiming of one's ability to say, this is my life, this is what I'm capable of, and this is what I'm going to do.
So
And
basically,
I
it's
love
the
you.
law, right? And it's the law of attraction, and it's the manifestation of what you truly want in your life. When we look at the different spots of where the eclipse is going to be more visible or higher energy, you look down in Texas and, in that string, do you feel that individuals are going to feel different frequencies of energy during that time, or is it going to be the same for all individuals no matter where you're located?
Um, uh, Metaphorically, it's the same for all of us. Metaphorically, we're all being, doesn't matter where you are on the planet or at what time, metaphorically, all of us at this time in our lives and at this time in society, we're all being asked to take our own unique individual self love and personal power back no matter where. Now, it would have to be like an incredibly highly sensitive individual to be like, oh, I'm outside during an eclipse and I'm feeling X, and now I'm inside and I'm feeling Y, outside X. It's not necessarily like that. It can be for, again, sensitive individuals, but in astrology, we deal with more metaphors and poetry, the
Yep.
story of our life, rather than some kind of calculatable effect on our biology.
So when we look at the significance, right? So you're talking about pretty much everybody's going to feel the same thing unless they're sensitive, right? So if they do energy work, they're probably going to be more sensitive to different frequencies here and there. But, before we shift gears here, what do you feel is going to potentially impact globally, if anything, during the eclipse or following the eclipse?
Yeah, it's you know, as an evolutionary astrologer, I like to kind of shy away from prediction because, as Yoda said, always in motion is the future. Difficult to see. And so instead, I like to deal in the realm of possibility and potential. I would love the potential for every human being on earth to say, wait a second, I'm in charge of my own destiny. And I'm doing it from a place of self love, where in the warrior mindset, it was O Sensei, the founder of Aikido, who said that the true martial art is the loving protection of all human beings. And so if we, start with ourselves and the loving protection of ourself, and we grow happily towards the sun and to the forest, and we encourage others to grow happily into themselves, wow, I would love for that to be what this eclipse is about. Here's a fear, and I will, I'll be sure to contextualize this as fear projection. The shadow of the possibilities here is someone acting out of fear. All it takes is the lone gunman on the grassy knoll kind of experience for someone to be like, oh, I've had enough. I've been so, the rabbits and the wind and the rain, and it's just too much for me. And the possibility of breakdown is always there. And during strong lunar events, the moon, emotions, the tides can take us to places of fear. And instead of healthy defense, the thorn that, it can be healthy if the rabbit tries to, bite us, shooting those thorns out preemptively, again, is not a really good idea and is a shadow potential of this of this eclipse energy.
Well, and that comes
So we
down to
want to be
mental health,
fine.
right? It comes down to mental
Yeah,
health. Are we going to be in a reactive state, and how are we going to control our emotions? Because everybody has
yeah,
emotions, and some people will take a step back through observation. Why am I feeling this? And other people will be
right.
reactive. Drop the fear and you know what? This is your time to step into your warrior self. Ryan's given you all the different tools and the breakdown of the energy that is going to be cursing through your brain or your veins. If you've got multiple brains, by all means, use them all right now, because, you can suffice for somebody else who might not be using theirs. So, Ryan, we were talking about a variety of different things, from the measurables to the shifts of the energy, what we may or may not see. But at the end of the day, the only thing that we can control is, how we set our intentions moving forward in 2024. Every single day is a day of opportunity to step into your warrior self. Now, you do a lot of different things, Ryan, clearly, and you are a master of your trade. What are some different things that you also do for individuals that might be interested in, hey, how can I connect with Ryan? I want to learn more about, how I can get a reading on where my birth and so on and so forth comes into alignment.
Yeah, totally. Well, individuals can check out my currently being redone but workable website, which is ryanevansastrology.com. And I generally, for first-time clients, like to do a full reading. We'll sit for 2 to 3 hours and go through all the seasons of your life, all the different archetypologies that percolate up through the astrology chart, and talk about what your best of all possible worlds looks like through that lens. We talk about everything from past life and generational woundedness to the secrets of happiness and joy and manifestation as seen through the archetypes of an individual's chart. So I definitely do personal readings. I love it. I also have a for pay Facebook group where I do daily posts on the energy of the day. And I also teach through the Forest Center for Evolutionary Astrology, where we certify astrologers in how to be very service oriented, motivating, and encouraging as we rip apart people's souls and chew it up and spit it out in front of them.
I mean, now that just pushes everybody to go to your website. Hey, he's going to chew
Yeah,
up and spit out my soul. You had, I'm
but it'll
gonna,
be all clean and shiny like.
right? It's just like you're going to polish off the rust, give it back to him. Like the Tin Man who didn't have a heart before. It's just like you're going to give it back to him, and it's going to be whole.
Exactly.
I do have a question for you in regards to level of consciousness, and then you talk about the third dimension. And I know we've got a very small window here. Do you notice that people are experiencing multiple dimensions here compared to in the 70s prior to chemicals, so on and so forth?
Yeah, totally. In fact, welcome to the 5-day lecture on human evolution. It was 1781 when Uranus was discovered. And prior to that, the solar system ended in Saturn. But Uranus was discovered. It changed everything up. The American French revolutions happened at that time. Uranus took on the archetypology of revolution. Neptune was discovered at the American Transcendental Movement in literature. Pluto was discovered when Carl Jung was developing his theories on the collective unconscious. Chiron was discovered in 1977 at the beginning of the self-help movement, and when Star Wars came out, the wounded father archetype there, anyone? And so there's constantly new awakenings that are happening in human consciousness. We're constantly trying to stretch out of our limited three-dimensionality and to integrate multidimensionality into this life. And when I say multidimensionality, I talk about things like love, things like being able to feel vibrational resonance, like being able to feel the music of other people's hearts on a vibrational level. That's beyond the third dimension, but many of us are awakening to these. Are we about ready to discover a new planet? I think so. More on this in a couple of years when it actually happens.
Right. I read the book, The Fifth Dimension, and it talks about the fact of when you start shifting from the third dimension, we'll talk spiritually, right? From the third dimension into the fifth dimension, it's where you start releasing hate, anger, jealousy, all of those different components where you truly find peace, and you start looking at humans at completely different, where it's not just the human being. You start looking at the soul of the individual. And honestly, I hope that shift starts occurring more and more in individuals, because this third dimension has really kept people locked into this safe where it's about money, power, and greed. And when we can take that key and unlock that door, now we can start functioning together and working together instead of this whole divide that we've created.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening all over the place. And sometimes it is adversity. In fact, quite often,
right.
It is adversity or the fear or the feeling of being oppressed or being controlled that does excite us to the place where we're like, wait a second, I'm done being a pawn. I'm done being oppressed. I have the ability to take my power back. Welcome to this eclipse where those new patterns, if you will, the new system upgrade. That's what today is about. The universe and all of its wisdom as an incubator for consciousness is at that point in its growth cycle where it's like, all right, now humans are becoming more ready to actually be in their power, which is the power of love. And all right, let's go humans.
Hey, I'm with you on that. I think right now we're going through a great reset, and I think it's important that we go through this reset so that we actually become whole as individuals. And then, like you said, the key word is love. We've lost that. We've allowed control to be in other individuals' hands instead of taking control back. And I don't want to use control as a power source, but control of how we show up. Now, Ryan, I just want to let you know that it has been an absolute honor having you on Define the Fight. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your insight, and clearly your passion with our listeners today. And happy solar eclipse day, man.
All right. Thank you. It's been an honor and joy to be able to connect with your listeners.
You got it. So one more time, do you want to share your website before we close here?
Sure. Yeah. My website is Ryan Evans Astrology, all one word, .com. You could also shoot me an email at flowerman1111@yahoo.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. And for those individuals who are going to be prepared for the solar eclipse, you know what? We will not only see you today, but we will see you tomorrow. All right? Today and days moving forward, let's define the fight together, because that's what life is all about. Let's do this.